please wait. October 25th. Okay, is Amy going to be here tonight, or anybody else?
Actually, she got text. She's running a little bit late, but she's supposed to be
Here you
here.
go. Okay.
I'm answering back right now.
Okay.
It's just the minutes right now, right?
Yeah, we got the minutes from June 23rd.
I've read it.
I've read them over. The only question I have is if the stuff had been started, and I found out everything that we approved that night has been started one way or the other so far. Except for one, I guess, the concrete. Any questions on the minutes?
None of us have the minutes.
I don't have any questions.
Oh, well,
Was that the meeting where was that the appropriations meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
yes.
Okay. Does it have in there how much the fuel amount was approved for? The additional fuel amount?
25,000, I think is
I
what it
believe it's in here, but I wouldn't swear to it.
25,000.
25,000 was the
was. 25,000, that's what I
Yeah,
thought.
I just want to see if it was in the minutes.
I thought I read it long ago.
Yeah, here it is, right there.
Yeah, 25,000.
Thank you.
You want a copy?
Sure.
Well, you need.
I got one in here.
Okay.
I
Yeah, no,
got one in last week.
no problem.
Have a motion on the minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from June 23rd.
I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
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 Is anybody opposed?
No opposed, nobody opposed.
Okay.
Short. Do we have the minutes for October?
No, I was out of town, so I don't have them yet, so
Okay.
I'll make a motion to table the minutes from the 11th of October.
Okay. Another copy to sign too.
You had a copy.
Yeah, here, maybe we should. Nothing's changed since I got this one, have you?
Nope. Still the same.
This usually, oh, wait a minute. I think it's got a signature page. Yeah, it is. And you keep that one. Okay, the budget.
Yeah. Larry made a motion to table the minutes from the last meeting.
Okay. I'll second that.
Okay, let's take that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, which one page is first? There are copies up here of the budget, and everybody doesn't have a copy.
Any changes from the 11th?
Not that I know.
I've got some proposed changes, so we'll go over those
No
here shortly.
changes on
There's no changes on that form.
They can't be changed after it's advertised. Well,
they can be changed.
they can change it, but they can't be changed with what's presented.
Okay. This is the one to go over first then.
Yep. All right, here's first change. Since we're only going to have $15,000 for the clerk, the trustee will probably be performing the clerk's duty to start with. So we're gonna change the trustees' pay to $30,770.
Point of interest,
Yes,
you can't. You cannot change the clerk or the trustee, you cannot change any elected official's salary in an election year.
Is
She's
the
not
clerk
elected. Yeah, you can.
Okay. The clerk's salary, not the trustee's salary.
What was the trustee again?
Okay.
Wait, so I can follow up, Larry, so I'm just making notes here. Okay, so what are you gonna do with the 15 grand that's in the clerks?
We'll-
Keep it or lower it
we're
or
gonna leave it there.
leave it? Okay, so no change?
No change there, correct.
Okay.
Next change is on other insurance. We're gonna lower it to $13,000. On official bonds, the trustee has to be bonded. That needs to go up to about $1,000 because there is a budget increase and it has to be paid per 30,000. So, or it's 30,000 per million, so that needs to go up. Utilities, I'm sorry?
How much is it going up to?
1,000, because it'll actually basically double. And utility services, we're gonna decrease that to 13,000 on the township side. And on the township side, that is the only changes. However, I do have one question, if somebody knows the answer. In the software contract for 8,000, that's for all departments, is that correct? Or
That should be the split that they make us do, right? I'm pretty sure that's where we have to split it by the whatever that formula is that the state recommends us doing.
okay. All right, and then on poor relief,
What
I'm sorry?
does that contract cover? What software?
That's our, pretty much everything, our maintenance, everything that he does, Steve does for us. You remember what all that captures?
Everything.
Pretty much everything.
Oh,
That's our
okay.
cloud, everything.
Okay, so this is a payment to Steve then?
Mhm.
Gotcha. Okay. Is that an annual? Does that,
This should be our, I just have to look and see what all it's paid out of, whatever he bills us for. This is just what we budget for it, but I don't
It's
remember
not
what the
an, it's
total.
not an annual contract, it's as used.
As
as
needed.
needed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now, there are certain things that, like the cloud, I mean, that's gonna be a set
X amount of
fee.
dollars, yeah.
We don't have it's not an annual fee for IT services.
Yeah, that's just what we budget to in case we have issues.
all right, moving on to the poor relief, that will stay unchanged. Unless you have a recommendation?
On that.
Yep. Speak up anytime if you.
I think we've been using that total cost for the cemeteries on there, or the cemeteries are up here.
Cemetery.
You're on the other one. There you go.
Yeah, they're up there, and it's
That's fine.
$5,000. You said move.
Yeah, we've been using all of that.
Just shy of it from it, to keep the trees cut back and then the lawn.
Poor
Okay,
relief.
so that's still good.
Yeah.
Township assistance.
And it's due to be rebid out anyway. So.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have any questions on
Okay.
township assistance.
About firefighting fund, there are several changes due to necessity. First line is salaries and wages is currently set at $1,300,000 on the proposed budget. That would be dropped to $1,203,100. The employee health would stay at $6,000. The FICA would then be dropped to $92,060 versus $100,000. The PERF would be dropped to $100,000 versus $112,000. The operating supplies would go from $14,000 to $16,000. A lot of these numbers are based on looking at actual expenses over the last couple years and what we feel we're going to need in addition to. EMS operating supplies would go from $15,000 to $17,100. Fire operating supplies would go from $18,000 to $20,600. Fuel would go from $23,000 to $45,000 due to the high cost of fuel versus when we put this budget in place when fuel was $1.81 a gallon. Fire EMS equipment repair maintenance would go from $13,860 to $20,000. Fire building repair maintenance supply would go from $15,000 to $23,100. Fire apparatus repair and maintenance is that 50,000 be raised to 76,900. Contractual payments go from 14,000 to 19,000. Insurance, because we don't know if we're going to have an increase or not, and because of I've heard several folks make comment to me that their insurance rates are all going up, and we've had several claims. So anticipating increase in insurance from 120 to 135. Training, with the current budget plus the addition of the ESO system, the additional $5,500 a year on that, we would raise that to from 17,000 to 25,000. Physicals, for the time being, we would raise from 19,000 to 26,000 until we get our staffing adequate and stable. And then I would anticipate that next year that number would go down. And that is all the changes that I have. The cumulative fund obviously is not going to change. The debt services is not going to change.
The last page, the top line,
I'm sorry?
under other services and charges, utilities.
Oh, I'm sorry. What did I missed that number.
You just see
What did I-
here.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's 31,000 and what did I tell you I was gonna,
43.
43,000 on the utilities. Now that 43,000 includes the insurance that we took off the township,
Not the insurance, but the.
no, the utilities that we took off the township and put it to this line instead. So it's more of an equitable, fair distribution of the cost of insurance and so forth. And that is it.
It's a lot more than a $4,000 difference, though.
So what is the bottom line?
The same.
The bottom line stays the same. It's all worked within the numbers that were presented at the last meeting.
Okay.
Are you guys gonna pass the salary resolution tonight?
No, sir.
Okay.
And the reason being, if the budget is passed, this proposed budget is passed, then we'll have to rework the salary resolution. And that does leave approximately 9,000, or not 9,000, 9% increase in the budgeted wages. So,
Okay, so what, just out of curiosity, you cut the proposed salaries and wages for fire department by what, 97,000 roughly?
yes.
So what are your plans on salaries and wages for the firefighters?
Like I said, we still have a 9% increase in there.
Okay, so.
Now,
Can you just explain, maybe put that up there on the board, how you're doing salaries for next year? Just so the guys will know whether they have a job here next year or not?
no, they'll have a job here next year. There will be an increase, but I can't tell you who's going to be getting what or anything like that. That'll be part of the salary resolution that we'll do based on what we have. In all fairness,
We
yes,
spent a pretty good amount of time last meeting about the lack of pay, and now we're cutting the pay even more?
But raising
no,
your pay.
we're not cutting anybody's pay.
You're getting a 9% increase over the,
We cut
You're cutting the proposed.
we cut the proposed, but we didn't cut, we're actually raising wages, but not that the amount that
So you
was in the budget. Now,
So you cut 93,000 out of the firefighter salary and gave yourself an $8,000 raise.
well, if I'm gonna do two jobs, I guess that's pretty fair. Well, hey, I got a question for you, Mr.
He's
Buckrop.
saving
Mr. Buckrop, let me ask you this
15,000.
question. If you want to go down that road, let's go down that road. Out of the last 60 days, how many days have you been in Madison Township?
What's that have to do with this budget?
We're paying you.
Right, what's that have to do with this budget?
You're talking about cutting pay and we're all that
Right.
sort of thing.
I'm
Why
talking
should-
about you
here's-
cutting
let
the
me-
firefighter salary and
No,
giving
we're
yourself
not-
a raise.
we're
He
not cutting
hasn't cut anybody's
pay.
It's a
salary.
9%
The
increase, he
proposed,
said
the
5
proposed
times.
salaries, yes, he has.
No.
You're not supposed to be talking to me. You're supposed to be addressing the board. I'm addressing the board.
Okay,
You
all
can
right, come on.
Address the board if you'd
So-
like to.
So
So-
he's not supposed to be talking.
So,
You do it all, every meeting.
all right, come on. Enough.
Guys, let's just go back to my original question.
No.
Can we just show how you got to the number you got to?
That's based on where we put numbers. For example, maintenance on our
No, on
apparatus.
salaries. How we got to the one, your 120, whatever it was, how do you get to your numbers?
Based on the fact of where we needed to put money for insurance and for apparatus repair and for building repair and for the other things that we need.
No, I mean, how
We
do you
can't put,
calculate salaries?
Yeah,
I'm sorry?
1,203,000, you gotta have salaries in mind.
I mean, when I sit down and I do a budget, I calculate the
This number,
positions
Yeah.
that we have on a fire truck
this number.
and the amount that we're paying those. It's a pretty easy budget number. How did you come up to an hourly rate for those 21 positions?
I haven't come up with an hourly rate yet for them. What I
How do
did,
you do a budget if you don't know what you're paying somebody?
well, I've got 9% left of this to pay somebody.
Have you calculated overtime?
Well, hopefully if we're properly staffed, we won't need as nearly as much
Firefighters have
overtime.
automatic overtime.
I know they have automatic overtime. I'm aware of that.
That
But I
has
will
to be
tell you this much,
calculated in the
it's
budget, Larry.
actually a bigger increase than what you guys got last year.
That has to be calculated in the budget, though. When you're cutting the budget, and we're barely meeting it now.
We're not cutting the
Well,
budget for
not
last year.
cutting
You're
anything.
cutting it by almost $100,000.
You just said we're barely making the budget now.
Proposed.
We're actually overspending the budget in some areas. So there's got to be a way, you have to have a way to cover your costs. What are you going to do if a fire engine breaks down? What are you going to do if a building has a major issue? What are you going to do?
Larry, I totally agree with you, but taking it out of guys' pockets or not staffing fire trucks. I'm talking to Larry right now. He's on the board. Seriously, guys, cutting staffing, because that's what's gonna happen is come September. The only reason that didn't happen this year, why we're not closing the firehouse right now, why there's not a firehouse closed right now, because we ran out of money, is because we don't have anybody working.
We
If we
understand
had
that.
somebody working
But
all
we
the
also-
time right now,
Well, here, hang on.
we'd run out of money.
All right, we will run out of money, and one of the reasons we'll run out of money is because if you look at our June financial statements, and I'll just use June as an example, we paid buku money in overtime. We had a part-time person that made over $9,000, a part-time person.
You're gonna continue to have that.
No,
You
you
will
will not
continue to
continue to
have
have
that.
it. I will tell you a big reason why you won't have it. Now, we'll just cut to the chase. You guys want to cut to the chase, we'll cut to the chase. One of the reasons why we're not going to have the turnover that you guys are having is because we're going to have a better culture. We're going to have people who are present to do their job to start with.
That'll help.
And we're also going to have people that aren't going to come in and cuss the people out when they walk in the building. And we're not going to have people who are poor leaders. Now, that will go a long way in maintaining your health.
Sure.
I will guarantee you. Now, a 9% increase, who in this room is going to, besides the firefighters this year, is going to get a 9% increase? Are you going to get a 9% increase? Any of you guys?
Larry,
Social
I don't
Security
see
is
a
gonna
9%
be
increase. The numbers don't make sense for your
Yes, they do.
9% increase.
I've worked it, it's a 9% increase.
So you're telling the
Not-
guys sitting in this room today, they're getting a 9% increase
So
in
it's a
their salary?
9% increase in the wage budget.
In the wage budget.
That's correct.
Well, you
And you're
just asked
keeping the
everybody
current-
if they were getting a 9% increase in their salary.
And you're keeping
Okay,
the
it's-
current staffing. You're not cutting positions to accomplish that?
Who are you going to cut to accomplish that?
Because the numbers don't make sense.
Well, I'm sorry, but where are you going to get money to pay the other bills? What do you want to do?
No. Larry, I'm not arguing we need to trim numbers, but simple budgets. I mean, just take the hours. Just take 8760, multiply that times your numbers, and multiply that times any amount you want, and those numbers aren't gonna make sense to you.
Well, I respectfully disagree with you.
Guys, I don't wanna get to a point where, come August, we're closing the fire station because we didn't calculate the numbers right.
Well,
We're already at that point, though.
I was just getting ready to say,
We're already at the point where we're closing fire
We're
stations.
closing fire stations because we don't have anybody to work.
and one of the biggest reasons they don't want to work is that even though they're being offered overtime, is because they don't like the culture and the environment. We have people who are taking mental health days just so they don't have to come into this place. Now that's a dirty, rotten, stinking shame. And that needs to be changed. It needs to be changed today. Now I've not said that before because I've been trying to hold my peace, but I'm done holding my peace. Now we either get the thing fixed or we don't get it fixed. And that means having a fire chief here when he's supposed to be here, not down in Florida. That means when they come in, they're acting like civil human beings also.
What's that referring to?
It's referring to you.
Oh,
What do
we're
you think
civil
is-
human beings.
Look, I talk to people, and I talk to firefighters, and I've
Right.
been told how they're treated, and I don't appreciate it. And you can think all you want.
I will, because I
I
don't
mean,
understand.
I definitely take offense to that because my husband was the fire chief here, and I
This is just
guarantee
another campaign
he
memo.
showed so much respect to every single person on this department.
Guys,
And
hey,
if you've heard otherwise, don't care. Prove it. I'd like to see the proof.
Ouch.
guys, hey, we can have those battles at a later date. The important thing is, we have a fire department here
That's right.
next year to protect the citizens of this township. That is what your responsibility is as board members. That's what my responsibility as an officer of this fire department is. We've got to make sure that we have a budget in place so that when somebody calls 911 having a heart attack or the building's on fire, that we have the funds sufficient enough to be able to respond with. And cutting a personnel budget by $100,000 makes absolutely no sense at all when we are already short
But
in
it's being
staffing.
increased by 100,000.
You're cutting it by 100,000.
No,
From last year.
cutting, we didn't, there's $200,000.
Cutting the proposed budget.
You can argue it however you want, but when you got $200,000 that you didn't have last year,
Oh, wow, this is-
And why is that? We explained these guys are making $13 an hour. They proposed to give them
15 to
a
17.
$2 raise, which gets them almost up to
Mooresville.
average, almost up
That's
to
what we're-
Mooresville.
We're competing with Mooresville.
And
Brown.
now we're gonna tell them, okay, now you're not gonna get that.
well, who told them they were gonna get it? I certainly didn't tell them they were gonna get it. In my conversation,
So you're
it
talking
hasn't
about
been
building
there.
morale, Larry. What a slap in the face. Now you're gonna say, hey, guys, we're gonna do so much for you, and now we're gonna take the money right back away from you.
And at the same
But
time,
make
giving
sure we put it
yourself
back
a
into
raise.
our own pocket. Because that's a good look, Larry. That's a real good look.
I'm not attacking anybody, guys. Let's just do what's right. If there's money somewhere else that we can move around, but we've got to take care of our people, otherwise you're not gonna have anybody working for you.
Well, let me tell you this.
You know how difficult it is to staff this fire department with what we have right now?
I know how difficult it is, and I also know that part of the reasons are, and I also know that your fire stations, one of them is closed at least half the time anymore.
Right, you're right. I welcome any of you to put turnout gear on and come respond with us. We need you. But finding somebody to work for $13 an hour right now when they can go across the street and make $30 an hour?
You go to Walmart and make more than that.
I showed them that. You weren't here. But seriously, guys, if we can look at that, think about that twice, because I can guarantee you, it's probably already being texted from one of these guys here. Guys, find that out, we're going to have a hard time even filling the roster tomorrow. Am I wrong?
Don't put those guys on the
Yeah,
spot.
don't ask them to do that in front of him.
Yes.
So I'm just looking at this is the 21 proposed budget, correct?
21 budget probably.
Okay. And it looks like there was 1.1 million set aside for salaries then. And you're still talking about 1.2, which is an increase of $100,000. And at 1.3, it was only an increase of $200,000 to begin with. So it's not a huge cut from the proposal. And it allows money to be transferred around in different ways so that all the bases are covered. I think that, yes, while our firefighters totally deserve $17 an hour, right now in this recession and the way that things are and have been, like, this is a solid compromise. I'm just looking at past budgets and what's here in front of me, and the comparisons are not terribly different. It does seem like, you know, a big stab for the new administration to come in and say to firefighters, hey, I'm not going to give you the raise that the old administration promised you because there's just no money. But I can give you a little bit of a raise, and I can do this and that, and we can make sure that you have fuel for your vehicles and things like that. I think it's a fair compromise. It's actually a little bit less money in the fire fund than proposed, And it gives us enough money to make sure we don't have to ask for additional appropriations in February.
Well, Kristen said something about that they're going to get out of the money that you're proposing. They're going to get almost a 10% raise. That's not a little bit of a raise.
They won't get a
That's not what he
10%
said.
raise.
That's not what he said.
The salary and wage budget will get a 10% raise.
That's what I meant.
Which is spread out over several
Way
people.
different than what you said.
It's quite less. It's probably a 1 or 2% raise for each individual firefighter, if that.
Well,
not
but
gonna
there's
say.
going to be a
Oh, it'll be
10% increase in the budgeted amount, and that should.
This
Everybody
budget
understand.
was set up so that this is the type of conversation that would happen.
Mhm.
Because all the money that was coming in was put in under the firemen's wages, and this was gonna be the end result regardless. That we were gonna look like we're taking away from the firemen.
And given to yourself.
Guys, I don't think that's,
Give
He
it to
cannot.
myself.
guys, I don't think
It's a-
that's
he cannot.
necessarily true. When we look at, and I didn't have anything to do with it, so I'm not speaking in favor of anybody that did. I'm just looking at from fire department budgets from year to year, even from company budgets from year to year. Anybody that works in a corporation, when you look at salaries and benefits, you look at cost of living increases. Look at what the cost of living increase this year's been. You've got to either match that or at least be close. When you already have an employee that makes less than average wage, and now you're not even matching the cost of living increase, what are we doing?
Can I say one thing?
You may.
I don't know why we're comparing firefighters' wages to normal jobs out there where you work 8 hours a day. You know, you're there 9 hours. You go to lunch on your own time. Firefighters get paid, you know, to eat, to shop, to sleep. People in it, you know, out in the general public don't get paid for those things. I mean, I'm not saying they make enough money. I don't know. I haven't had time to look at all of this, but you know, don't compare firefighting salary like a $13 to what someone's making in some other job in some other industry, because those people don't get paid to sleep and shop and eat, and you know, they have their lunch hour on their own time, and you know.
I think I showed you at the last meeting what the average firefighter salary is. These guys make almost $15,000 less than that.
Yeah.
And most people don't get interrupted in their meals because they have an emergency to go to.
Yeah, I'm just saying
Most
you
people
can't.
don't get woken up in the middle of the night multiple times.
I'm just saying you
because-
can't compare
Of course, they're still getting
firefighting
paid
salaries
during the middle of the
to
night.
somebody making $30 an hour. You know, I mean,
Here's
that's-
what you can compare them to. Here's the 5 townships in the state of Indiana that you can compare Madison Township to. There's only 5. There's 1,005 in the state. That's correct. But there's only 5 that even compare Madison Township. There's over 239 of those townships have a population of less than 1,000 people in it. The other 700 have less than 5,000 people in it. There's over 10,000 people in this township. This township has more population in it than some of the cities do. City budgets have tax rates of almost twice ours. If you look at these tax rates of these other 5 townships, we're operating almost $1 million less than comparable townships. And we provide just the same service to the same amount of people. We're doing it with part-time people instead of full-time people. This is the stuff that we've got to start looking at, guys, is we're not asking for something that somebody else is above what somebody else is asking for. This is like comparisons. I'm not saying let's compare ourselves to Carmel or Fishers or somebody like that. These are like comparisons of the same assessed valuation, same as Madison Township. Same taxing. So if you want to go out and you want to tax a tax base, these are same townships with the same tax base. These people are paying a little more in tax revenue, but they want the service. So we're gonna tell our residents that we don't want that service? So when we start looking at comparisons, we keep saying Madison Township's so high and we don't want that. These are the five townships in the state of Indiana that you can compare yourself to. We've heard it forever. Yeah, Madison Township probably is one of the highest in the township in the state. You know why? Because the other 97 townships that are above us all have cities in them. If you look at Mooresville and Brown, yes, Brown Township is a township, but they have 2 fire departments protecting Brown Township. One of those fire departments has a city rate that is providing fire protection out of that. The majority of these townships, anybody that wants to see those can see them. 97 of those townships all have cities in them. So yeah, they have $10 million, $15 million budgets. But the tax rate for a city is calculated in the city rate. So yes, you can look at township rates all day long and see where Madison Township's higher. We don't have a city. We don't have a city budget. We're just as big as these cities, but we're not funded through a city. Our fire department is solely funded through this township. You look at Martinsville and Washington Township. You look at Washington Township, there's 2 fire departments in that township. So you have 2 fire budgets funding that protection for that district. Same way with Mooresville and Brown. This township, you have one taxing service for this service.
Let me say this, we didn't get here overnight. This didn't happen last year.
I'm very clear.
This has been happening.
We've been fighting this for 20 years.
Exactly.
But
So
if we keep doing this and ignoring it, guys,
we're not ignoring it, Eric.
we're never gonna fix it. And the only way we're gonna fix it is we get people to work here.
So your proposal would be to take, I'm gonna assume your proposal would be to take and put that 100,000 back into the pay, into the wages category, and then we'll just have to skate by the skin of our teeth because of the.
We have $130,000 of additional appropriation coming in with this assessed valuation coming in, unplanned money for next year's budget. That $130,000.
What 130,000?
This assessed valuation, the reassessment has generated $130,000 extra dollars for next year's budget.
You're speaking of the money that we got this year also that
No,
went
that's
into
for
those
next year's
wages.
budget. That's for next year's budget. You have an extra $130,000 that's coming in that if you so choose, you can take care of your firefighter's insurance with that or whatever if you want to pay your other debts. But you've got $130,000 for next year of additional appropriation for your maximum levy. If Ben was here, he'd explain that to you. You've got a $70,000 increase coming in on additional appropriation. Guys, we're going up almost $100 million in assessed valuation next year from this reassessment. Madison Township's going up over $100 million.
But we don't have that money yet, sir.
Not yet, but it's coming.
And we're not opposed to spending what we have to spend. Don't get me wrong. But we also have to protect what we've got and take care of what we've got.
I understand
Now, in the
that.
last several years, in the last 10, 12 years, we've spent money frivolously, and nobody can deny that.
Give us a chance to fix that. I agree with you. I agree with you. There's been some expenses that we shouldn't have, that the fire department shouldn't have, the trustees haven't, but you can't take that out on today. We've got to protect our residents.
We've had the same administration for the last 8 years, and nothing's changed.
You can change that January 1.
And that's what we're trying to do, change it
But don't cut
January
your throat
21.
by doing this.
We're not cutting our throat. I don't call a 9% increase of cutting your throat.
Show me those numbers when you say 9%. Because the numbers, when you talk about 9%, what is that 9%? Is that 9% on somebody's salary? Or is that 9% overall?
That's
Just explain
9%.
it.
It's 9% overall on wages and salaries in the fire department.
Okay. You know how that works with overtime and with perf contributions and all that?
I got it. So
when you increase my salary as a full-time firefighter, my perf contribution goes up with that as well. You cut the perf contribution. Are you clear on that?
Yep.
So where are you gonna come up with that money?
I'm not planning on coming up with that money, but
Well, I mean, that's how that works. When you increase a firefighter's salary, you bring that salary up, you have to increase what you put into their perf contribution. That's a state law.
No, they have to, the board has to approve that as well.
No, they don't. It's a
Yes, they
state
do.
law.
No, they
Yes,
have
it
to
is.
prove that.
Why, why is she addressing you?
I don't know why she's doing this.
It's been done here.
Guys, it's a state law. You
No.
contribute, what is it, 17, or you guys have 21% here?
It's full.
So you contribute their 100%. 21% of their perf contribution you pay for. So if you're paying 43,000 of theirs, you're gonna pay 21%, you're gonna pay almost $9,000 of that into that. So whatever you raise their salary is in addition to that $9,000 that goes directly to the state for their perf contribution. That has to be calculated in that. That's where that perf you don't have a choice of moving that. You can't reduce that. That's a retirement benefit that goes straight to the state.
well, I will say this much. There is probably some fluff in this firefighting fund,
There probably is.
and there's probably, and most of it is based on past expenses though. 2019, 2020, 2021 expenses. There are categories here that in 2021 were overspent by in excess of $20,000. Okay, so how are you gonna cover those expenses?
So sometimes it looks that way. Like today, if you pick up this budget form, it's going to show that it's over. But I'll let you explain that, how that works, because I've questioned him on that, because it's like, holy crap, how are we $20,000 over? Excuse me. But
Talking a line.
line item.
He's talking about line items.
Yeah.
And you're talking about line items, correct?
No.
On line item
Some
there?
on line items, yes, you are over. That's true. In the fund, you can't be over on the fund. I understand that.
Yeah, from date to date, we may have a transmission go out on an engine in July, and now August looks like it's $50,000 over because we spent $20,000 on a transmission.
I understand
It levels out at the end of the,
I understand that.
at the line.
That's why I was looking at total numbers for the year. Not
Yep.
looking at
Yep.
month to month, but the total for the year.
Yep.
And I think personally 50,000 is probably low on maintenance.
No, I mean, we've talked
So-
about that before. The older this apparatus gets, if we keep putting it off on replacing apparatus, I mean, the maintenance is just gonna keep, I mean, this apparatus is what, 17 years old?
Yep.
Your average fire engine life is 10 years.
Well, we have a
We're already
we have
7
a
years
four-year
past.
capital improvement plan, which includes taking care of our apparatus. But we've got to get there.
Can I ask where you were when all of the discussion about buying a ladder truck instead of a new apparatus was?
Trust me, if I was here, we wouldn't have that ladder.
I thought you'd worked here. For
I work here, but I was involved in any of that decision.
You came to none of the meetings. You weren't aware of any of that.
Oh, I was a taxpayer here. You probably heard me make some comments on that when they were trying to buy that.
Not
Okay.
a public meeting.
You might. Yeah, some of those expenses, like that one, probably should have been looked at a little more. But again, your board members make those decisions.
This board member voted against it.
But you're right. Things like that could probably be reevaluated a little more.
Yep.
But guys, don't take that kind of stuff out on the people that work for you, or you're not gonna have people that respond on those.
Nobody's trying to take anything out on anybody. Matter of fact, we want to improve things for them. And improving things for them not only includes an increase in pay, but also includes, for example, let's use Station 31 for example. Okay? This time last year, that thing was a hole in the wall.
I'm clear.
And there's parts of that building that still are a hole in the wall.
Clear.
As a matter of fact, there are holes in the wall
Several.
on the outside.
Inside.
And there's a
too.
rotted post, and there's the mechanical room is a disaster. And I could go on and on about that building.
We know we're gonna have to spend money in that building as well. But again, I feel very comfortable sitting down with you and taking a look at those numbers to make sure they work. Hopefully you looked at all those positions and what it takes to fill it. overtime never goes away.
No, it doesn't.
It never goes
We
away.
understand that.
It doesn't matter whether we got every seat up full on the truck, you're
We'll
always gonna have
overtime.
overtime. Even in a department that's got 100 guys on it, you're always gonna have mandatory overtime.
We understand that.
If we haven't budgeted that,
We understand.
we're gonna be behind. And that's the way this profession works. There's mandatory overtime.
But understand, we can still move stuff around within the fire fund too.
Do you have a question?
No.
So I am personally curious because I obviously missed this part of the discussion. What was the reasoning between raising your salary by $8,000?
Because I would be taking care of the clerk's responsibility as well.
So
If we don't.
so the 15,000 goes away.
No, the balance of it stays there should we get a clerk, and then we'll make changes.
So you'll still get the 30,000, but you're gonna keep the 15 there for when you hire a clerk.
No, there's no 15 there.
Right here, on mine at least,
No, it would,
it
You just
says,
said you're leaving it there.
yeah,
The
it's
total-
15,000. I'm
stays
not
the
asking
same.
you, I'm asking him.
the total of the two, the difference would stick, not the whole
She's not allowed
15.
to talk like that throughout the whole meeting.
So
Shouldn't be anyway.
So then basically you need to adjust what your clerk
And
line
that's what-
item would be. It shouldn't be the 15,000.
No, it would be around 8,000 or 7,000. That's correct.
I'm very confused. So,
Can you read off those new totals?
Because
Just please.
15,000 is on
the proposed
the
budget.
proposed budget.
And what are you
for-
proposing to change the clerk's salary to?
We will, if we do not have a clerk, which it doesn't look like we will, then there won't be a clerk's wage. It'll be sitting there, but it'll be the difference between the 15,000 and the 8,000.
So what happens to that extra money if there's not a clerk ever hired?
It sits there. And hopefully,
You still can't
still can't what?
adjust the salary of the trustee in an election year. You can adjust the salary of the clerk. No, you can't.
Yes, you can.
You can't adjust the salary of a trustee or a board member in an election year, because if Scott wanted to, this hypothetically, I'm not attacking
You
it.
can't lower it.
You can't,
You can adjust it.
okay.
Question?
No, I don't.
Statement.
No, I'm just getting a headache.
So just from a taxpayer point of view, every other year that we have all sat here and we have fought and fought and fought and fought and fought, if Scott would have proposed to do this any other year, you would have laughed in his face.
Not if he was going to take on the clerk position.
Tell me I'm wrong.
I'm telling you you're wrong. If he was going to take on the clerk position as well as trustee, he would deserve a raise. And I would be the first one to say that.
Hey, this
And you
budget-
know that.
This budget created a problem when it's cut the salary of the clerk. We can't afford to get a clerk in here for that kind of money. No way.
This whole budget was
So
a
he's
joke.
gonna have to do it.
You guys voted to cut the clerk's salary.
No, we didn't.
We did not.
We did not.
You did.
No, we
I'm
didn't.
sorry, you're wrong.
That
We
was-
voted to cut the
Public
investigator's.
assistance, I'm
Yes.
sorry, which is the same person.
But it's a different
not
job.
the same.
Different job, different category.
But
Different
it's
fund.
It was the
one
same person.
it's one
Yeah, same
person
person,
doing that
right.
job. So I can see where that confusion lies, because it is one person that splits the role.
It was a constant- it was a
Basically, just
constant
like
attack.
what you're saying, you're gonna be the trustee and the clerk. Which, just so you know, she cannot assist you in any of this work. You're aware of that, right?
I'm aware of it, yes. You think I'm, never mind.
At
Don't
least you-
answer that. Don't answer that.
I won't. But are you aware of that? That you cannot assist him with any of his duties as a trustee / clerk?
I have spoken with the state already, so.
So you're aware?
We have gotten their answer.
So you're aware?
I am aware of their answer.
Okay.
poorly. We're cut 4,000 in here, that's all we asked for. We didn't ask to cut her salary on the clerk job at all.
So why was it cut?
Don't ask me, that it was just done, looks like. So. Okay. Do I have a motion on this budget?
I'll make a motion to accept it.
To accept the change.
Accept the changes, the proposed changes, yes.
I'll second it. Any debate? Vote on it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Is that opposed?
Yep.
Who's taking the minutes of this meeting?
They're being recorded and then they'll be,
Larry.
does anybody know what our current tax rates are, by the way?
Yeah, they're on one of those papers up there.
I think I've got it here.
No, proposed tax rates, I guess.
And did you guys say you was tabling the salary resolution or no? Was that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. I know, I just want to make sure.
Maybe you should vote on that. Just
Vote to
make
table, I
sure.
make a motion to table the salary resolution.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
I should talk to Tony for a minute. There's that budget thing. I'll be right there.
Yeah, we got to sign this one.
This too.
This is what we sign here.
Really get the vote out. Do you get your names and
What do we sign for the board?
Yeah, sure.
this is for
DKB.
the tax rate and what your total.
That's number two.
I have a question.
Trudy?
I just noticed that on this proposed budget that was advertised, the debt service payment says $161,000, but on this paper that you guys have to sign, it says the fire equipment debt, the adopted budget says $159,617, which is a difference of over $1,000. I'm not sure why that, I don't know why that is.
I noticed the taxpayers agrees, but
Agrees with what?
the budget estimate.
No,
but-
this paper right here is what they have to sign.
Yeah, yeah.
Fire, that, it does not agree with.
This doesn't agree with this or this. Yes, I understand.
So I was,
That's a good question. I was just,
And the 161 is what's on there.
the 161 was what was published in the paper.
yeah.
Which would be all they would get.
I don't know if somebody made a mistake when they made this paper or.
Who would have made it? Never
Everything else is the same except for that.
To see on here. It's 161.
More of these up
161. This
Yes.
one here is
all
151.
Extensively.
They don't table.
But y'all just approved of this.
Yeah, so this is incorrect, we can't sign
It's
it.
not me. This makes me sick.
You have to make a schedule, another meeting, get it taken care of.
Can you, did you say you're not signing it?
Oh, yeah.
Is that what you just said?
Well, it's not correct.
Now it's easy.
Well, I was wondering, can you, I mean, I don't know who made the mistake or if, but I didn't know if you could write a line through that and put 161 on it,
It is about taking it down.
because I think this has to be, it's supposed to be signed,
Yeah, I know it is.
but,
So I did make a change and initial it.
Just says.
or
may
if
not
anybody
alter
knows why it was changed, does Scott?
the salaries of
know?
elected or appointed officers during the fiscal year for which they
Well,
are.
161 came off
Meaning,
of this form.
like what they're trying to do.
No,
now.
I know that 161, that was published.
Yes, you can.
I
That's what
understand that,
says.
but
You can add or
this is the
eliminate
form
any
you guys
other
have to
position or
sign.
change the salary of any other employee if the necessary funds are available. She's not freaking elected.
This is for next year. It's a different fiscal year. Change it in the middle of the year.
Yes.
Well,
Not the same as last
I
time.
can never forget it because Tina told me to say her. She flashed and I just.
Talking about me?
He is.
That was when you were thinking, well, I'm changing it all
Maybe
in
not
an
the
election
same
year.
as
It is not the same thing.
Can you take a vote?
I was telling him how I remember her name.
We would get everything signed, yeah.
I mean, it's D and E on
We need another one.
it doesn't have mileage, doesn't matter. But and then in here, the township legislative body may not reduce the salary of the executive without the consent of the executive. So, can you raise it? It can never be lowered.
Keep reading.
They called me back, I can't do it.
What am I reading? This is about
Just
trustee dying.
You just may not reduce it. You're not reducing it.
Ever. Without the consent. Ever. Ever. So, couldn't have reduced Scott's 2 years ago, even though he wasn't doing his job. So, if it's raised now, it can never be lowered by the board without approval by the trustee.
This meeting
Just reminded me of times to pay back. So there that goes.
If you're not getting anywhere, let me know, because he's the one that wants to do this one too. And if he's not doing that one, then do it.
Did you guys vote on this page yet? This is the one with the different amount, I don't know.
Yes,
I didn't hear you say anything, so, because that
we voted on it.
vote has to be right.
I'll make a motion to adopt the tax rate
With a correction or no
with the
correction?
correction.
I'll second.
What's the correction?
Favor say aye.
I guess they're changing the 159 to 161.
Is it 161
Could
even,
you
or?
state what the correction is so that it's,
The correction was on the fire equipment debt. The page that was presented listed at 159,617. In the budget, it's 161,000.
Even, I take it?
So one of
Thank you.
these needs to go to.
We don't sign anything for this part then.
Not that I'm aware of.
She sure didn't put it in
I
there.
didn't see anything that needs to be signed with the rest. I don't think we did last year either. Was it a new meeting time or no?
Oh. Yeah. Do we need another meeting?
We need one in January though.
Well,
First Tuesday after the first Monday.
So you want me to spread this and give it back to this?
That would be the third,
Yeah, it's early in the month.
very early, yeah. Do you prefer Tuesdays? Are you available on Tuesdays?
When's the next meeting?
We're working on that right now, and it says the first.
It has to be the first Tuesday after the first Monday.
So it is the
That's
third.
election day.
January.
No, in January.
This is in January.
We did both get one.
We have to have a mandatory meeting in January.
That'll be the election of officers, right?
Yes.
Okay.
No, that's,
Are you guys not gonna have any more meetings this year?
I can't remember.
Okay. Just asking.
23. 7 o'clock. Okay, next meeting will be January 3rd.
Hold on a minute, guys. We've got to approve that salary resolution before the end of the year
Not legally.
by
Not
law.
legally, no. Doesn't have to be done to the first of the
If you
year.
don't, you're stuck with this year's salaries.
No, it doesn't have to be done to the first of the year.
Research that.
I already have.
Recently?
Yes, like this week.
Okay.
So,
Madison Township.
Oh, you're eating that.
It's kind of late.
If you show different, we'll call a meeting.
If they don't approve that before the end of the year, you're screwed.
Anyway. I'm out. That's an
You done? Okay, next meeting is January 3rd, 2023, 7 o'clock. Here. Have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
It's like the only time Brown Township has a meeting is